We begin the current Daf with the new Mesechta, Kesuvos, which, like the title of the Mesechta, it's a continuation in the Seder of Nashim, in the order of the women, these Mesechtas, discussing the dowry, the marital document that talks about what the husband owes the wife in case of divorce or in case if she gets widowed. And we begin the new parak, Basula Nissus, which talks about a very important aspect that comes up with the Ksuba, which is if the husband wakes up after the first morning and he says that this woman is not a Basula, because the Ksuba of a Basula is different than that of a Ba'ula, and therefore that's why the parak opens up this Mesechta of Kesuvos with this idea about the veracity of how much is this woman owed for a Ksuba. Shiur's corresponds to Kazik and Cheskel, turning to the Daf. Everyone who's joining with today's Daf, all the newcomers too, we appreciate that. So what we're going to discuss in today's Daf are Basula Nissus Liyem Revi, which is that as our parak opens up the Masechta, that the virgin gets married on a Wednesday, and the reason for that is twofold. One is because Tainis Basulam, which is in case that he says that he doesn't find any virginity, he's going to wake up and come to court the next morning, and also to have time for the Suda preparations, to have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday prepare for the wedding on Wednesday. Now the reason why this is important is because a married woman who is Mezana Beratzin willingly becomes a sur to her husband, and that is all the time they were engaged to consider as married. However, she's violated ba'inus against her will, she's materes to her husband. In contrast, an Eish's claim becomes a sur to her husband even ba'inus, so therefore it's important that him to come the next morning and say that she actually might even be forbidden to him because of the fact that she doesn't have her pasulim anymore. Which is related to Pamayim B'Shabbos, 2 times a week, the Bezdin would sit in the cities on Mondays and Thursdays, and therefore if the wedding's on Wednesday, he wakes up the next day, he can go to the Rabbanim on Thursday morning, which relates to the two stages of marriage that we have, is Eris and Risud. In Talmudic times, they used to get engaged and 12 months later get married, which gave the woman enough time to prepare herself for the Chasna, 12 months of time. But today, the common custom is that we do the Eris and Risud together by the Chuppah. Ma'ala Mezayim is the halacha that once they get engaged, biblically there's a requirement for the husband to feed for her wife the sustenance, which the Rabbanan said that's only going to be up until the time of the Nisuin. That's when he starts feeding up. Shakta Chacham al Takanz B'nai Yisrael is that the Rabbanan were very concerned that the husband should be able to appear for the Suda of the Chasna, Tereach Shleish Yom. The Stachvas today is the concept that it's like, so to speak, the concept of Mazal Chagorim, which is that your field garu, and the woman could say that although I'm not ready for the wedding, it's your fault, and therefore it's not my loss, and you still have to feed me. Yesh Oinus Begidin or Ein Oinus Begidin is the topic that starts in number Beis and goes through into the next daf. Do we say that there is a claim of, the guy could say, look, it was a Oinus, and therefore although I said it's going to be a get, if I don't come within 30 days, but it was a Oinus, do we say that the person can make such a claim or not? And again, that we'll see regarding In Get Lachamisa, also that a person cannot give a get after he's already dead, and therefore that might come into the halachas of the Tanoim with stipulation that he makes. So that we begin the new Masechta, the new parak, Daf Beizim and Aleph, parak Basula Nissus. On that we begin the Mishnah. Basula, a virgin, there's a Takans Chachamim that Nissus Liyem Revi, that she gets married on a Wednesday, as we're going to explain, which Tosfos interestingly points out. He says, why on Wednesday? As we'll see, it's about coming to court on Thursday morning. So why saying Wednesday? Why don't you say on Wednesday night? So he says no, because it's a well-known concept, but in the last parak in need, the lek ksub de leiroma betigr. There's no ksuba that there's no dispute about. And it takes time, and if you're going to make the chasna on Wednesday night, we're concerned that maybe the chasna and the ksuba is going to take so long, they're not going to have a bilas mitzvah, noch the mitzvah tanzi, back home at 7 o'clock in the morning, and therefore he's going to shachris that morning without knowing if she's a basul or not, and they're going to have to push it up till Monday, and then that's going to defeat the whole purpose. So therefore, Basul Nissus L'Yom Revi on Wednesday, Par D'Shkiya, so that by the time there'll be enough time for Bilas Mitzvah, that then you could have this purpose of what, as we're going to describe. So a Basula gets married on a Wednesday. V'Aman L'Yom Chamishi, a widow, a woman that's a Be'ula already, she gets married on a Thursday. So the Mishnah explains why does a Basula get married on a Wednesday? Because Shepamayim B'Shabbos 2 times a week, but they didn't Yeshin Ba'Yomis. The courts are sitting in the cities, which are B'Yem Sheni, those are days like today that we lane. These are very auspicious days. Bahab, on Mondays and Thursdays, Muntig and Understig, that's when, this is one of the 10 takanas that the Ezra was Masakin, as the Gemara brings about Makama on the Pebezim and Alf, where it explains all these 10 takanas. That's why they instituted that a Basula should get married on a Wednesday. Why? Shem hoyle times besulam noch the chasna. He goes the bilas mitzvah, and he's like, what's going on over here? He says, there's no besulam over here. So Yamashkim lebez, and so the next morning, Thursday morning, he gets up. He's angry. What happened? What happened over here? And he comes to court the next morning. Now, because as Rashi explains, if there would be time in between, we're concerned that maybe he's going to be appeased. He's going to calm down, and he's going to say, you know what? I'll stay married to her. The problem with that is, forget about that of the besula of the ksuba, but she might have been mezana in the last 12 months when they were engaged, and she's forbidden to him, as the Gemara learns on Seder Chav Chasam and Aleph, from minister Rabbi Nitma, that she actually becomes tummy to him. She becomes forbidden. Now, but when he's going to come to court, it's going to be verified. The word's going to get out that this guy is saying that his new kala is not what he thought she was, and maybe witnesses are going to come. The reason why Rashi says that, as Taisus elaborates, is because it's a svek sveika, really. It's like we don't know what happened if she was a oines or barotz, and we don't know if it was when she was engaged or not. But that's what Rashi explains, that maybe witnesses are going to come, and then they're going to be verified that, yeah, this woman is forbidden to him, and therefore we want you to get married on a Wednesday so that you wake up the next morning right away. He says, what is this? You come to the Rav, and he says, there's no besul over here. And but the Gemara is going to ask, so why did you get married on a Sunday? It's the same thing. Why if you're married on a Wednesday? You could say Sunday or Wednesday. Sunday's a great day to get married, right? You have that booked in all the halls. The Gemara is going to discuss why Dafka Wednesday, not Sunday. Now the Gemara has a question. I'm Rabbi Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishmol. It's important because it's Rabbi Yosef in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Mishmol. Neima Amar, why did they say Besula Nisas Lima Ravi? That a virgin should get married on a Wednesday, which the Gemara is going to ask on this whole statement of Rabbi Yosef momentarily. So he says, Lafi Sheshaninu, because we learned in later on in Parak Alf Al Pi, in Zayin Med Aleph, there's a mission that says we give the Besula 12 months from when the husband said, let's get married. And she needs 12 months to prepare all her jewelry, all her ornaments. It takes the kala a long time to get prepared. For a widow, not so long. She already did this once before. She's already seasoned. She needs 30 days. Says the Mishnah, if he gives if this time, again, whether it be 30 days for the almana or 12 months for the besula, v'loi nisu, and they didn't come to the chuppah yet, which later on Amud Beis we're going to explain that who is the one that's holding this back. Why didn't they get married yet? It's the husband who's holding it back. He's not ready. He's not ready. I'm not ready. I didn't prepare the apartment yet. Whatever. So then the halacha is oichlis mishaloi. So then she, the wife, eats from his pantry. Meaning, the husband is obligated to feed his wife from Takanas Bezdin after they get married, as the Gemara learns later on of Menvav and Beis. So, if it already came time for the chasna, it's already the 12 months, already the 30 days, and they didn't get married yet, so she eats from him already, Ba'echlis B'Truma. And if he's a Kohen, and she is a Bas Yisrael, the Kohen feeds his wife Truma, as the Gemara learns out, that Menzaim Beis, it's a pasuk in the Torah, Kohen Ki Yikna Nefesh, that when the Kohen acquires a soul, if she becomes his wife, which is already when the Kedushin, it's just the Rabban that said you only can do it in the Suin, but here with the time of the Chasna came already, and you're pushing it off, then already she will eat from him, and she'll eat Truma. On that, continues Rabbi Yosef. You would think if the 12 months reach, Be'echad B'Shabbos on a Sunday, okay, that's what the Mishnah says in Abnan Zayin, says Rabbi Yosef, in the name of Yehuda Mishmul. So it's already 12 months. If 12 months falls on the Sunday, you would think he has to start giving her the wick card to start, she can go purchase the stuff. L'kach Shanina, that's why we learned opening our Masechta, Besula, this is L'Yom Revi, that a Besula gets married only on a Wednesday, to let you know that no, the Takan Chacham is stopping me from getting married. This is not me stopping the wedding. This is the Chacham don't let me. I don't have to feed you now till the next few days, till Wednesday. Then I can get married. Oh, now if I'm not getting married, then I have an obligation to feed you. That's what Rabbi Yosef, the name of Rabbi Mishmul, is why we're saying Mesul, and this is the Ravi. The Gemara says this is a little bit backwards. Rabbi Yosef, meaning Rabbi Yosef, who said this teaching over the name of Rabbi Mishmul, he was wondering on what his Rebbe said. He says, Marid Avram. It's like a type of like a phraseology, like the master of Avram, oh gosh. Like, what's this Shmuel saying that this idea? Moreover, as Rashi tells us, Rabbi Yosef became ill and he forgot his learning. So he was always wondering about the things that he had originally said, and he was like retracting. And he says, how can you say such a thing? Tali Tanya, you're making the something that was learned, the explanation of our Mishnah, the Sunnahs Liyamervi, b'delay Tanya, in the Mishnah that wasn't taught. Which the Gemara asks from Rabbi Yisrael and says, wait a second, Hai Tanya, B'hai Tanya. What do you mean? What are you saying? One is taught and one's not taught. Tanya. Both are Mishnayos. One's our Mishnah, one's Mishnah on Daf Yomi. What do you mean? You're telling me that the explanation of this is on something that's not taught? It is taught. No, Elorel, this is the what Rabbi Yisrael was wondering about was Tali Tanya de Mefarish Taima. You're trying to suspend and explain our Mishnah, which says the reason why a Basul gets in the Slim every. It says because that he should get up and go to court the next morning. And you're making it dependent on B'detanya, on a Mishnah of regarding the halacha b'giyazman, there's no explicit reason over there on that Mishnah of Zayin to say what is the reason why if it would be on the Sunday that it would not give him a Zaynis. So he was wondering, like, what is this teaching Rabbi Shmuel explaining our Mishnah based on that Mishnah over there? So rather, he says the opposite. If it was said, because like again, had Rashi explained, he forgot his learning, so he says, Hachi, it must have been that the way it was said was like this. The other way around. I'm Rabbi Shmuel. Yeah, first he opens up with the halacha by Mishnah, but like our Mishnah says, not totally in the Mishnah over there. Why do they say that a Basul gets married on a Wednesday? Because if the husband has a claim regarding the virginity, which he claims was not there, he would get to the court the next morning. But on that is the question, this is all Rabbi Yosef saying. The question then is, wait a second, if that's the case, get married on a Sunday. If you had the claim of the Basuma, you mashkel bezin, get up to the bezin on Monday morning. On that is another explanation. Shoktu Chacham, the sages were diligent. Al Takanas B'nai Sol, for the rectification of the Jewish women, that they, when they're coming to prepare for the chasna, they should have the meal prepared for 3 days. Appropriate wedding, you have time that it takes to prepare it, which is Echad b'Shabbos, V'Shein b'Shabbos, V'Shlish b'Shabbos. You can't prepare on Shabbos, so you prepare on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. On a Wednesday you get married. But now, this is the point. This is the kicker. This is what it has to do with the mission of Zayin. Now that we said there's another reason why you get married on Wednesday. It's not just because Sheyashkim Ladesing, it's that you could have done it on Sunday too. It's also so that you can have prepared the wedding meal for 3 days. So if that's the case, why is he not getting married on Sunday? It's because Chacham didn't want you to get married on Sunday. They wanted you to get married on Wednesdays that you could prepare the suda for 3 days, so they told you no, you can't get married on a Sunday. So then this that we learned on the Mishnah of Zayin. If it became time to get married, the 12 months are up, the 30 days of Amana are up, and they didn't get married, then on that the Mishnah says, okay, now she has a right to eat from his pantry, to go ahead and eat his truma. However, if the time came out on a Sunday, since he cannot get married, because the Chacham said we don't let you get married today, so the ain't the mazaynus. So it's not saying our Mishnah is dependent on that Mishnah. If anything, that Mishnah is dependent on our Mishnah. That Mishnah that said that 12 months are up, you got to stop feeding her, was only if it was not the case if it was on a Sunday, because Chacham didn't let you get married on the Sunday. Now, Rabbi Yosef concludes. That was his teaching that he explained the name of his rabbi, Rabbi Shmuel. Now, on his own logic, he continues and he wants to extend this one step further. He says, therefore, since we learned that if you're held back from getting married, even though the 12 months are up and like, okay, you got to feed her, but if it's because of an oinus, beyond his control, what do you want? I can't get married on a Sunday. I know 12 months are up, but what's the kind of thing? So then he doesn't have to feed her. So Rabbi Yosef, so then if chalahu, let's say what happens is, the chasna date is 12 months, they're ready to make the chasna in the shtetl, and then he becomes sick. He can't, he has 105 fever, he's in bed. Or she becomes sick. Or she appears a nida. Or she becomes a nida, which you're not going to be able to consummate the relationship. Then ain't a malam. So then he doesn't feed her because it's an oinus. Just like Rabbi Shmuel said, to explain that Mishnah, because you can't get married. So too over here, any type of oinus would say, okay, it's not my fault, it's beyond my control, and then they wouldn't have to feed her anymore, wouldn't have to give her the check or the credit card number or whatever it is to go ahead and get food from the grocery. That's one version. However, there's another version that actually has it as a question, which is Chalahu Mahu. The question was saying, no, maybe it's not so obvious. If he becomes sick, what's the halacha? So the Gemara explains. Hasam over there regarding what we said just before from Yehuda Mishmul from halacha by Mishnah, where you're telling me if 12 months fall out on a Sunday, he doesn't have to feed until Wednesday. Time am I? What's the reason? Mishnah the honest because you're on his control. Okay, but it also beyond his control. But he didn't want to get sick. He got whatever type of arthritis or who knows whatever it is. He doesn't want it. So maybe he would be part. I didn't know. Hasam honest with the content of the kingdom of Rabbanah. That is beyond his control from a rabbinic institution. The rabbis don't let you. Hachalai, over here, it's not a rabbinic institution. So you're right, but who said that would be as severe, as strong as the Chazacham to say that just an Einus, but there's 12 months, you didn't get married, you have to start feeding her. And then Tim Tzulem, if you're going to say that Chalahu Ma'alam Einus, you're right. If he became sick, okay, it's a hit. What does that have to do with me? I'm a Kala, I'm waiting to get fed, 12 months is up. You're right, it's beyond your control, but you still have to feed me. But Chalsehima, what's Allah if she became sick? The Kala is not well. What's the question? The Gemara explains. Matzi Amala, could he tell her, look, Ano, Hokiyimna, me, I'm ready. Let's get the show on the road. And you want me to pay for something that it's because you're like a penalty, because I didn't get married on time, but I'm ready. You're the one that's not well. Why should I be liable to pay for you? Maybe no. Matzi Amrali, the Kala could tell the Chassan, Nistach Fasadehu, which is like your field got flooded. In other words, what she's trying to tell him is that your mazel that caused it. Because from today, I am responsible on you to feed me. Which, as Taisa explains, he says that it's something the woman can tell the husband, because this is something that like Taisa says, he can't claim to the contrary that maybe it's her mazel. Maybe it's her mazel. Why is it his mazel? Because first of all, says Taisa, because she's not commanded on peer review. She doesn't get punished for that, so it's a punishment. They can't get married. It's not hard punishment, it's his punishment. Yeah, it's his mitzvah. Moreover, is because she's his kinyan. He's not her kinyan. The husband acquires the wife, kinyan kaspa. So she gets out, like your field got flooded. I'm saying it's not my fault, so it's your loss, not mine. And therefore maybe he would still have to feed her even when she becomes sick. And it says the Gemara further, Vintim, so maybe going to say Amrulay, that she could tell him this stuff for Sadeu, that your field got flooded, you have to feed me. But Pirsa Nidama, what's the halacha if she starts to menstruate? So the Gemara explains, B'shas Vesta, so if it's by her expected period, then like the Bailach, that wouldn't be a question at all, as the Gemara continues to tell him days. Because the Loi Matzi Amalei, she for sure cannot tell him the stuff for Sadeu, that his field got flooded, because it's not to be totally in his mazel. It's not like Hashem's punishing him. This is her period that she always has. So therefore that most definitely would not be included in his liability.
He could technically marry her,
Right, but I'm saying this is definitely not something that it would be a reason why they wouldn't, because to consummate the relationship.
He could say no, but he technically could marry and then he would be tied with his earnings.
Right, I'm saying the point is, what you have to know also, if our whole objective is to have him come the next morning, he's not going to do that anyway. Right. And but the question you could ask is Shalei B'Shas Vesta. If this was not during her expected period, on that night we could ask what the halach would be, as Gemara explains. Given the Loi B'Shas Vesta Havia, since it's not during the time of her expected period, so Matzamah she could tell him, look, the stuff was there. It's your filling up another. Like Taisa explains, it's your punishment. Obviously, no one expected us to have this. We didn't go on any thing to stop the menstruation. We thought it's going to be good, but it's obviously your punishment that Hashem is doing. Like, maybe no. You have women that their periods do change. It's like during the time of the period. In other words, and that it wouldn't be his punishment. It would be something related to her. So on that says the Gemara. Again, this is all in the second version of that. These are all questions, in contrast to the first version of Yosef, compared all these cases of Chalahu Chalsehi. He said all these cases are all considered Einis, and that the husband would be exempt from paying. And according to this version, we had studied that he would be obligated, even though they're Einsin, because it's not an Einis of Takas Chanan. Says Gemara Pashur Rabbi Chai. So Rabbi Chai wanted to resolve this question from the Mishnah that we quoted on Daf Yomi. What does the Mishnah say over there? Mishnah says, "Higiyaz man v'lei nisu." If let's say it came the time, okay, Shen Ayum mit mitzvah, that's where we said the famous phrase Ayum mit mitzvah comes from this Mishnah. Because Besul Nisu Yom Revi, they used to get engaged, and a year later, 12 months, they would get married. But Ayum mit mitzvah, because you had to wait till Wednesday. It wasn't enough for the 12 months. That's where the famous phrase comes from. So it came the year, and they didn't get the time of the 12 months was up, and they didn't get married. So like we quoted on Nomen Aleph, that loch is eichus mishlei ba'eichus b'tshuma. So she gets to eat from his stuff, and she gets to eat true. Says the Gemara, says Rav Chai. Now, he's very medayik, which Chase actually says interesting because there's no yuds anyway. But obviously they had a Messiah that this is the dikduk. Is loy nasu loy kedani. It doesn't say that he didn't marry her. That would sound like if you said loy nasu, it would sound like that the husband is holding back. It's his fault that they didn't get married. It doesn't say that. It says that the women didn't get married to their husbands. It sounds like that the one who's holding back are the women. She's like, no, I didn't go yet to the city. I didn't get this outfit for the 6th day of Sheva Brachas and whatever. So what's this? If it's talking about the woman holding back, what's the case? Either and if it's literally that the woman is just holding back and she's just like, no, I'm not ready yet. Why would we say he's responsible as if it's somewhat his fault that they're not married for when she's holding back the date? Rather, obviously, the isness ki hagam. They must be talking about that. No, it's something, it's because of the woman, but it's something like type of an einus because she just became a nida. She's like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do the wedding now. I just got my period. It's in 2 days. Do you want to get married? We can't do that. Oh, but Tani, what's the Mishnah over there saying? That she could still eat from his stuff and she can eat truma. So you see, says Rabbi Chai, from that Mishnah's wording, that the question you asked regarding Pirs and Nida, that even though it's by her einus, he slessed to feed her. Because it says loy nisu, not loy nasu. So Rabbi Ashi says, no, truthfully I would tell you that kol loy nasa, all types of einsin, like some girsais have Leishna he, Leishna hu, doesn't make a difference if the einus is from him or for her. Lo yachla. No, she doesn't get to eat, like we said regarding the Tarkanis Chachamim, that any type of einus he's not responsible for. But udukama akfi in who? When we saying in the Mishnah of Nidzayin, if they didn't get married, that he has to feed her, that's because he's holding back. So then the question was, so why does it say loy nisu? It should say loy nasu. It should say that he didn't marry her, not that she didn't get married to him. Says Rav Ashi, right? But didn't the should have really said loy nasu. So I said loy nisu. Because I did the Reisha, but did he, since the Reisha over there was told about her, because it said that you give the Basula 12 months, and you give the Almana 30 days. Meaning, who's the one who needs it? The Chassan get married tomorrow. He's like, just give me a pair of pants and I'm ready to go down to the chuppah. The Kala needs to get this, and needs to get that. So she's the one who needed. So the Reisha was talking about her. It was talking about, is this about time money? This is about time. So tell them, so Sefer also uses the terminology about the woman, but the truth is it's not her who's holding back, it's really him who's holding back. And therefore, Rav Ashi says you could say, like the first version of Rav Yosef, that really any type of einus, not just if it's Tarkan Chachamim, would allow the husband to be off the hook, and they wouldn't have to feed her. Not just Shaktu, not just Sunday versus Wednesday, but even if he became sick, she became a nida, whatever it is, the point is, if it's einus beyond his control, then he's off the hook. It's only if he's holding back, and it says loy nisu, not loy nasu. That's just because they kept the same uniformity of the ratio. Now the Gemara continues regarding this lafikach that Rav Yosef had said on Amud Aleph, which we had learned, as the Gemara concluded right now, that any time that there's an einus that's holding back the chasna from happening, that we say that exempts him from feeding her. Although we said after 12 months he's got to feed her. But we're saying that's only because he's not getting married. Why not getting married? So you got to pay. But if it's a einus, so he said that's going to let him off the hook. He doesn't have to pay. If he's sick, she's sick, whatever it is, he wouldn't have to pay. Now, on that Amar Rav, he opens up a whole new window, which is not really related to what we're talking about, but it's just because of the concept of einus. It says, well, any gittin, any regarding a get, the claim of einus, that something beyond my control happened, is not affected. So let's say if a guy gives a get to his wife and says, on the condition, if I don't come back, by that time it's going to be a get. Now what happens is that an oinus happened. The plane got delayed, and then his car broke down, and he missed the plane, and so the halacha is, although it's an oinus, he says, if I'm not back within 30 days, you're divorced. He couldn't come back because something beyond his control. It's going to be a get, and he cannot say, oh, it was an oinus. In contrast to what we just talked about regarding the halacha of feeding kala after 12 months, where we said a claim of oinus is valid, but again, it's not going to be valid. Which Amak Sabar Rabba says, obviously Rabba holds, ein oinus begitten. That there's no claim of oinus by gitten, which the Gemara later on is going to explain what's the reason for that. So the Gemara says, Manale le Rabba, where does Rabba get this idea from? That oinus does not work by gitten. Where generally we do say oinus in the Torah, we find in the Torah itself that a person is exempt from things that being a oinus. How does he know ein oinus begitten? It says, if you think it's Rabbi Mishnah says this gitten that says that he's a gittich. A husband says to the wife, look, here's this get. It's your get. If I'm not back in 12 months, you're divorced. Now, interestingly, he dies within the 12 months. Says the Mishnah, ain't a get. It's not going to be a valid get, meaning if, let's say, he doesn't have any children, so she's going to have to do yibum. It's not like she was divorced. Now, there's a diik over here, that if he dies, it's not going to be a get, because it's not considered as a valid get until after 12 months. But he dies within the 12 months. So if it's only divorcing her after 12 months, who's divorcing her? A dead person cannot divorce. But the Gemara makes that deal. Meis hudein a get sounds like that only if he dies it's not going to be a get because there's no get after death. But if it was some other einus, obviously dead is no bigger einus than that. Obviously he can't come to do the proceedings. But it sounds like a chala. Let's say he was just sick, not dead. How is a get? It would be a get. It would not remove it from being a get. Ooh, obviously, although he's sick and he's in the hospital, that's not an excuse. That's not going to get you off the hook of not. You cannot make the claim of einus by a get, because if you think to say that being sick would also make it not a get, so say sick, for sure dead. There's no bigger einus than dead, right? So if einus got you off the hook, why would you say mess? Just say chala. Obviously, chala doesn't work. So you see, like Rabba, ain't einus begitten. So the Gemara rejects the right. Says no, that wouldn't be a valid right. But maybe I would tell you chala nami ain't a get. Maybe the truth is that if the husband is sick within the 12 months and he couldn't come, it's not going to be a get, because maybe you say that there is an excuse of einus begin. So wait a second, why are you picking dead then? Oh, but he gufa. In other words, the reason why the Tana picks the case of dying is not to make the diuk to say, ooh, but if he's sick, it's going to be a get. No, and as Tosfos teaches us that, because it's actually teaching us two ideas. It's teaching us the another idea, Kamash Malan. Yes, it's teaching us that einus gets you off the hook, which misa is that type. But then why do you pick sick? To tell you another idea. The ain't get lacha misa, that you can't have a get after a person's dead, even without it tonight. What? Or no, he just says to his wife, yeah, this is your get after I die, meaning without it tonight. Meaning that's what Tosfos explained. The Rashi seems to be addressing that while we're talking about a case of a Tanai, so he's saying because it's teaching us two ideas. It's teaching us one regarding this halacha of if it was a this, then the Tanai is not going to be valid, then it's not going to be a get. Additionally, it's also alluding to the case of, in general, saying about death, that if someone says this is my get now, I'm giving you the get, but it's going to take effect after I'm dead, it's not going to be a get. To let her go, that she doesn't have to go ahead and do yibum, that's what it's teaching us. So again, so it's not necessarily only misa. No, sure, there would even be sick. So I pick misa, because we also wanted to tell you the idea that a get just doesn't take effect after misa. That was the important principle that we wanted to add in. So it's not a raya from there. The problem is, however, the Gemara doesn't like that rejection. Ain't get lacha misa. That's why we're saying the case of dying, because we wanted to tell you a get does not take effect after death. Hatana leresha. That Mishnah over there, on the Ayin Beizim and Aleph, which is the resha of that Mishnah, says if let's say you have what's called a shchimra, you have a dying person that writes a get to his wife with one of the following terminologies. Either he writes hariza getich imati. This is your get if I'm going to die. Again, he doesn't want her to be stuck in an even situation, but he wants to stay married to her. He's just not sure if he's going to survive or not. So he writes a get. He says, look, if I die, it's a get. Or or this is your get from when this illness stops. Now, the problem that ended up happening was that he actually died beforehand, meaning from that illness. Or he writes, this is your get after death. So in all these cases, Lo Makom hasn't said anything because when that illness stopped already, he wasn't alive anymore, so he can't divorce. So all these cases were after he's dead. So that's the ratio that Mishnah already know this halacha and get lachamisa. So why are you telling me that the reason why I picked the case of the Tanai of within 12 months of the case of death is because we just wanted to teach you the added principle of Engel Lachamisa, not to tell you that there's no Einus by Chalahu, because we could have said sick too, we just wanted to also tell the idea of Engel Lachamisa. The Risha, they already said this principle of Engel Lachamisa. Why would we say the case of Mess? You should have said the bigger case, bigger Chiddush of Chala, of sick, to say Yesh Einus beginning. So he's going, no, I'll tell you why. Because Dilma, maybe the reason why he needed the Sefer of, really it sounds like it's repeating this idea of Engel Lachamisa, to say if I don't come within 12 months, etc., it was necessary to say it. You know what? It was Lafukim Ed Rabbi Seinu. It was coming to exclude from what's called the Rabbi Seinu, which they actually disagree on this halacha. And they actually say that that case is not actually get lachamisa. Why not? Because since in the get there's a date that is written over there, that date proves that he really was telling her, if I'm not back by that time, let's say 12 months, it should be a get retroactively from today. Because if it was true that it was only becoming a get after the 12 months, why are you writing a date on the get inside? You should have just written, if I'm not back by Rosh Chodesh, it should be a get. The reason why you're writing a date is actually to show that I wanted to be retroactively from today. Well, that's not a get lachamisa, that's a get from today when he's still alive. So that's why we have to tell you that halacha, that it says it's not going to be valid, because it's going to be get lachamisa, lafuka from the Rabbi Seinu who say it's not a get lachamisa. You understand? It's not here to tell me the diuk. Oh, it's only been mess. But if he became sick, oh, then it's going to be a get because we don't say eins in begitten. No, not true. Could be we say eins in begitten, and therefore the Rabbah does not have a raya from that Mishnah to his principle of ein eins begitten. So you say eins begitten. So why do you need to say a case of dying? Say a smaller eins, which would be a bigger chiddush of just being sick. You're right. It would have been by sick also. I wanted to tell you Engel Lachamisa. Engel Lachamisa. The Reish already tells you Engel Lachamisa. Yeah, I know, but the Sefer had an added chiddush in Engel Lachamisa because we have to exclude from the Rabbi Seinu, which is the Tanai Luna Braisa. But Rabbi Seinu, our teachers, that's who we're referring to. It doesn't say who they are. They actually permitted this woman to get married without chalitza. In the case of where he said, if I'm not back by 12 months and he dies, because we said, Man Rabbi Seinu, who is this our teacher? I'm going to read the Mishra. It says, Beidina Deshara Mishra. It's the court that permitted the oil of the idol worshippers, which is actually Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, who was in the days of Amiram. He was the grandson of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, who was called Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Sometimes you'll see Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. It's not the same one. It's a grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. It's that because Sabri like Rabbi Yesi, because they held like Rabbi Yesi, the Amma that says, Zman shel shtar mechichala. The date in the document proves that it's not for nothing that you wrote a date inside. That if obviously it's coming to let you know that from the day of the writing and the giving over is when he's divorcing her, if he's not back by that date. So therefore, even though you didn't write that there should be a get mehayim from today if I don't come back, it's like as if you wrote from today. As Gemara brings this halach Rabbi Yisi, the Mishnah there teaches that someone writes all his properties to his son. So the Tanakh says you have to write mehayim alachamisa, and if you didn't write mehayim, it's not a gift because you can't gift it after death. Rabbi Yisi says you don't have to because by writing the dates as if you wrote it today. Oh, so therefore there's no right in Medaik Ein Einis Begitten, because again, the reason why we said this case is to tell you, get Lachamisa, and the added chiddush in that, not like the Rabbi Seinu, who held it's not Lachamisa, we held it is Lachamisa, we held like the Tanakh now holds even if you wrote a date, it's not from today. And that's where we have to say that halacha. But it's not there to be Medaik, mace but not Challah. No, Challah would also be. I want to tell you a chiddush in Engel Lachamisa. So he must have been okay, so that's obviously not a good source for Rav, but rather it's Misefa. From the end that Mishnah in Masechtas Gittin is where Rav learned this idea that he's saying in contrast to what we said in Amud Aleph regarding to feed your kala, that oinus would be an excuse, that there's no oinus beginnings from the end of that Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say over there? If let's say the husband said to his wife, Me'achshav, from now, if I don't come from today up until 12 months, then it's going to be a get. And a mace dies within 12 months, says the Mishnah over there in the Sefer of that Mishnah. It says, sorry, it's a get. It's going to be a get. Now, it sounds like mace. Now, that even though there's no greater illness than death, even so, you're telling me it's going to be a get. Obviously, ain't illness begitten, and behuadin l'chal is going to be becoming sick. You're telling me that if he says from today, if I don't come back within 12 months, it's going to be a get. And he dies, it's a get. So why didn't he come back? Because of illness of death. So you see, ain't illness begitten. So the Gemara says, no, Dilma Meis Dafka. Maybe specifically when he dies, because what's the whole reason why he's writing her a get? He's writing because if he dies, he wants it to be a get retroactively, because he's not, he doesn't want her to fall for Yibam, doesn't want his wife to have to go through this whole procedure with his brother. Now, regarding such an oinus is where he doesn't want to be mevatel the get. He doesn't want that oinus mevatel the get because the whole point is if I die, I don't want my childless wife have to go through this with my brother. But some other oinus, which is, let's say, his stomach gets stuck in traffic or there's some type of customs or whatever problem, of course he wants him about the get, if he could get off the hook with oinus. So I would say that there would be oinus begitten, and that it would nullify this tonight. So there's no raya to tell me that ain't oinus begitten from the save of that Mishnah, because maybe that oinus is because he's okay with it. He doesn't want it. You're right, he doesn't want that oinus to nullify the get, because that's the whole reason why he wrote the get, that when he dies. So you can't tell me that Misa would then say Chola would be the same thing. So the Gemara says El Maha. Rather, the source of Rav is from something else. There was a person that he said to them, if I'm not back within 30 days, I want this to be a get for my wife. Now what happened was, he came at the end of 30 days, but the problem was with Paski Mavra. The river was in the way, where the ferry was on the other side of the city, he couldn't pass. Amlu said, Chazud said, look, I came. And that, Shmuel says, Lav Shmei Masya. It's not like he came. And therefore the get takes effect. If she wants to, she can marry someone else. And from today on, she's possible for kahuna because she's considered Mugudeshes. Oh, obviously you see from that halacha of Shmuel that ein oinus begitten. You can't say, I'm here. Look, hello. No, we don't care. You didn't come. So you see ein oinus begitten. So no, that's also not a riot. But then maybe a common oinus is different, because the keeping the boil is, so he should have stipulated that said in case the ferry's not there, then I don't want that to be a problem. But he didn't stipulate, so this is something that he's causing to his own fault. It's not considered really an oinus. It's like a pshi almost. Like you knew that maybe the flight could get delayed. You knew that, and you didn't stipulate that, so you can't claim oinus. It's not oinus. It's not something that's beyond control. You should have expected that, and then maybe that's why he said it again. So rather, the Gemara finally concludes and says, so what is the source of Rava that says Einan is begin? It's actually Rava's Svar de Nafshikam. You're right, there's no Tanoic source. Rava had his own logic that he said Mishum Tznuus and Mishum Prutzes, because of the discreet, modest women, the righteous women, and because of those who are breach the halacha. As the Gemara explains, Mishum Tznuus, what does it mean that Einan is begin because of the righteous women? Because the Amrit, if you're going to say that because of his oinus, that the truth is it's loyla have get, it's not going to be a get because of oinus. If you're saying that he can get off the hook, if he's not back within 12 months, and we find out that because something happened, there was a guerrilla war going on where he was in the Congo, and he was doing pictures for the whatever it was, and National Geographic, and they couldn't get back, and it turns out he comes back a half a year later because of that, and it's not going to be a get. Oh, you know what's going to happen? It's going to have a Gilum and Aleph. Zim in the loyanis, at times it's not going to be a night. And it's really going to be a get. But Besavar, she's going to think this tznuah, that maybe the honest, maybe it is honest, and it's not a get. She'd be worried to get married. Because how do I know that my husband didn't come back, that there wasn't honest? Maybe there's honest. So if you can allow the claim of honest, she's never going to get married. She's going to stay in Aguna. Because she's like, how do I know? And she called the Rav and say, well, maybe it's honest. I read something on the news, there's something going on. She's never going to get married, so there's going to defeat the whole purpose. And at the same time, Mishum Prutz is also for the women that are not so careful about halacha. The iyama, because if you say yes, we are going to allow a claim of einas begitten, lelahavagita, so it's not going to be a get. But zinna the honest, sometimes there's actually going to be einas. If she's going to say, why honest? She's going to say, it wasn't einas. Wasn't mitzvah, she's going to go ahead and get married. Now the problem is, the husband's going to come and he's going to say, and he's going to prove that it was einas. The nimtze get, but that comes out the getless boy, who benad our children from the last husband are mamzerim. So therefore they said, no, it is going to be a get. We need on both sides. Because if we allow it to be not a get, it's going to be problematic. The tznu is not going to get married, and the prutz is their children going to be mamzerim. So he said, ein oinus begin. Says the Gemara, how could you say that? Well, is there such a thing to have a get? You tell me biblically it's not a get. Because as we said, the claim of oinus is a biblical idea. The Torah says in the Bam Chav Bezel, the woman who was raped, since it was an oinus, she's not held liable for extramarital affair. She doesn't get death because it's oinus. So biblically, it's not going to be a get. But because of the women that have a little bit obsessively about anxiety, and because those who couldn't give the Sharina Ishes La'alma, we let a married woman go marry someone else. What does that mean? If it's an oinus, turns out it wasn't really a get, and you're letting her marry. How could you do such a thing? So and yes, because the famous idea called the Mekadesh. Whoever gets engaged to a woman, Adaita de Rabban. It was with the halacha and the idea that the Chachmei Yisrael already arranged the Klal Yisrael. That's that he's going to be Mekadesh, that the Kedushin should be based on the words of the sages. And they nullified according to the words of the sages through the gittin that the Chachamim validated. That's what Taisa says, as we say during the time of the Kedushin, Kedas Moshe be Yisrael, and Vaskinu Rabban, Kedushin B'nei. And the rabbis, when such a get comes, they went and they removed that Kedushin. Comes out that ring was just a gift. So Amalei Ravina Rashi says, wait a second, Tainach, I can understand that you tell me it's going to remove it when the Kaddish B'Kaspa. But the Kedushin was like we have the custom with a ring under the chuppah, to say that this get is going to uproot this Kedushin, and therefore we're making the money like as if it was originally a gift. Because essentially that's really what it was. Really, biblically, it's not a get. But it doesn't make a difference. Not a get, say the rabbis, and we're making it that wasn't a Kedushin. It's like, it goes based on we want this to be a get. Biblically, it's not. No problem. Not a Kedushin. He gave her a gift in front of 2,000 people. No problem. But the problem is that the Gemara Kodesh B'Biyah Mekhaneh. What are you going to say if, let's say, the Kedushin was, there's three ways to do Kedushin. Isha Niknes, Bekesem, B'Shtar, B'Biyah. Let's say he did an act of cohabitation with her. What are you removing over here? In other words, I understand when there's a valid get, even though the Kedushin was valid up until this point, the Torah decrees that the get is severing and permitting the relationship from here on. But this is not a biblical get. You want to validate because you tell me that the one who does Kedushin based on the Chachamim, and they're nullifying it. So you have to say that retroactively it was never a Kedushin. Problem is, if the Kedushin was with a Biyah, you're uprooting the Kedushin, what's going to be with that Biyah? Then what was happening over there? So the Gemara, Shavir Rabban and Lebilasa, the rabbis made his Biyah retroactively through this get, which rabbinically they're considering now, his Biyah was Biyah's Nus. That means the Chasna night, when this happens, when this get is sent, it really is a Oinus, but the Rabbanim do not allow Oinus. Comes out that when this guy married 15 years ago or 27 years ago, that Biyah, from then on, was actually Znus. Because you guys were never married. And the rabbis have the ability to do this because he made it dependent on them. And they don't want a claim of Oinus because it's Znus and Prutzis. Comes out that all your Biyahs were Biyahs Znus and you guys were never married. Now Rashi says the famous idea that from his teachers that explained this Gemara comes up a few times in Shas, that the Gemara likes Kodesh B'Kaspa to say, I understand the rabbis could remove that Kedushin with Kesef because that's rabbinic Kedushin. In contrast to Biyah, which is a biblical consummation, how can you say that? Rashi says you can't say that. First of all, the Kedushin with Kesef is a Gzeir Shabbat. Kicha from Sefer, as we'll see in Daf Beis in Kedushin. And whatever's learned from Gzeir Shabbat, it's like it's explicit in the Torah. So you can't tell me that Kedushin with money is only rabbinic. The reason why the Rambam famously says that it is Medivri Seifim by Kesef Kedushin, that's a whole discussion. But Al-Kapanmi says that even if it is rabbinic, then how can you go ahead and give skila to a marital Isha's ish and bring chulin to Azar based on shkaga if you tell me that it's only rabbinically married and not biblically married? And it says, anyways, at the end of the day, when the Gemara answers that the rabbis make his bil bezos nose, you're going to anyways have to explain like I explained that the Kedushin are retroactively uprooted and not from here on. So he says, anyways, you have to say like I said, it's not an idea because rabbinic versus biblical. And he says, whoever wants to explain that the Rabbanim made whoever does Kedushin with Biyah as a Bila's nose, not just here, every time. It says that's a big mistake because he's coming to permit that Aisha says that got engaged with Biyah without a get. From that reason, we don't find that anywhere in the Talmud. Although we frown upon someone who does Kedushin with Biyah, it does not like we consider it as if it's nose. That's a valid way of doing a Kedushin. So again, the Rashi just rejects those interpretations and he says that the Gemara's question was, what are you going to do about it? The Gemara says, we're going to make that into a Maisa's nose, just like we made that ring into a gift, we make that into a Maisa's nose. Thank you for your time.